Hi and welcome to the rocket scientists that review old Lego classic space sets from the time period 1978 to 1987. Today we will be reviewing the 918 space transport. So where is it? Wait a minute. I think something is coming down. And there we have the beauty itself, the LL918. The set was first released in 1978. That is in fact unconfirmed. I'm not totally sure. Some sources mention 78, some sources mention 1979. And it can be a little confusing because the 918 number is coming after several previous sets that we also have reviewed in this channel. So I take my chance and go for 1978. Depending how you count, 86 bricks. And it came with one red minifigure sitting on board here, as shown here. Classic astronaut. The length of the craft I have measured to be approximately 19.6 centimeters. The width of the craft, or I can take the wingspan of it, is 11 centimeter, and the height from ground here up to the top part of the aerial, 9.5 centimeter. Let's measure the weight. I take my scale. We zero that out. Wait for a zero. Yeah, we have grams. And I placed the spacecraft on top of that, and I measured 113 grams with a resolution of 1 gram. That includes also the minifigure sitting inside here. Let's go over now and talk about the design. Yeah, first of all, this is a design I really love a lot. It shares the design DNA with other kits like the space scooters that we have reviewed earlier. They have the same kind of airplane shape to it, or appearance to it. So you see again the delta-shaped wings plan you have here. You have also a delta, reverse delta in the rear part. You also have a T-tail section with an aileron here. So again, this by design, by looking at it, and if this was going to be a prototype model for something to be built, I would assume that this model should be able to fly in some atmosphere. It could be the atmosphere of Mars or Titan or whatever. Because wings and tails and ailerons has nothing to do in the vacuum of space. They will have no function at all. In order to do maneuvers in space, you need rocket thrusters, like the reaction control thrusters that you have a pair of here, 3 on each side. So that's nice, and as explained before, if I operate just this one, I should not actually in theory, because it depends on the location on center of gravity, but let's assume that the center of gravity is here in this plane. If I fire this one, it should move in this direction. Or opposite, if I ignite this one, it should move in this direction. If the center of gravity is, for example, over here, you will have a rotation in space, or in air for that matter. Let's say that you want to do a rotation on this plane, then you could fire this one and this one, then you will get a rotation in this direction. Or opposite, if you fire this one and this one, you will operate it, or rotate in this direction. So by firing both of them on the rear part, you will go in forward direction. Or opposite those two, you will go backwards, reverse. So you see, with this configuration, you will have yaw control, as we call it. Let's say transversing motion, if we assume that the center of gravity is always perfectly in here, in this plane, it could go like this, or it could go back and forth. But there is no possibility in space to pitch up and down this spacecraft, neither going up and down like this. Then you have to utilize other thrusters. And if you're going to brake or going up, you have actually this nozzle here, or piece representing a nozzle, rocket nozzle, I believe. When we are talking about that piece, this is something I didn't like as a child and still don't like, and is that this has the same distance, height distance as the landing leg, so you actually land on the nozzle. That's a really bad design if you were going to make this as a real model. You would crunch that nozzle. Nozzles are really expensive. How do I know? Well, you're listening to a real rocket scientist, so you have to believe me on that. Nozzles are expensive. So, and this shouldn't have been there. If Lego decided to do a design on this, it could be a flat circular plate here, then this would be somewhat better, because it doesn't need it to get support on these 3 legs as that the model has. Now let's have a look at the instructions. I have that. And here it is, the 918, the famous 918. Let's open it up. It's somewhat bigger, so it's a little hard to show it. It starts off with the assembly of the craft together with the minifigures. Continues in 6 steps on the first page. Not particularly difficult build. And here you see the minifigure and the control display, or knobs I would say. And here you see that you're building the structure of the craft, or the air cabin. All in all, I believe it's 12 steps, then you end up at the final model, ready to explore. And on the rear part of the instruction, you have this picture we have seen before, and all other kits that you can collect. The LL918, which we will come to in the near future. The model also has an aerial here, an antenna, which it shares with many other classic space model. So that's something that you would also expect on a real model. A nice feature is that you can open this beautiful yellow semi-transparent plate here, which I really liked as a child. Also the color of this windscreen, it's a beauty. And the contrast to the blue color here, it's just amazing. And again, not only the blue, but also the gray color they had. So you see the astronaut sitting in there, nothing much else of space, some space behind here. And trying to look into the control cockpit of for the astronaut. You see the classic steering wheel there, and you see this 1x4 brick with printed dials or knobs to operate for the astronaut. I remember also that I was a little disappointed having this in the cockpit because it was kind of black and grayish, no dials or no computer screen. And at the time, you know, I had already the two-man space scooter, which had this really nice control console that I would expect to see inside a craft like this. So instead they included this, which to me was a bit disappointing. And I still agree over 4 years later. A piece that I really liked as a child and still do is this front piece here with the big space logo there. The classic space logo is so beautiful, and also the printed number of the spacecraft, the same number as the set, and the LL, I simply don't know what it's meaning. Yeah, and you have two green semi-transparent bricks here for kind of a navigation or blinking lights, and the same but in red for the wings, which are navigation lights. On the rear part of the craft you have small hatches that you can open. I guess you could pretend it's a small storage compartment or for repairing your engine. And of course at the business end of the craft you have a big nozzle piece, a piece that I really liked very much. It's a typical shape of a rocket nozzle, and here you expect to see some flame coming out. Yeah, the rear part is also nice that you have this sloped piece upward there, so you have some rounded edge there, and also that in the belly section that it's rounded corners there. The craft by Wing Design is fairly flat, so that's okay with some antennas in the front there. So, in respect to score, I will just say 6 of 6. I guess that didn't come as a surprise, even though this irritates me still. It's so lowball design, it's so good, it shares the DNA from the smaller craft, the space scooter and the two-man space scooter. You see a similarity in design. So they belong to each other. You see that immediately. Also, it's a fantastic model. Playability, well, it's easy to handle for a child. By design, it tells you go out, fly out into space, explore, find out what's going on out there. You can operate in atmospheric planets or moon, and you can operate in the vacuum of space. So yeah, in respect to score on playability, I have given it a full score. I don't think there are any details here that would take that score to a lower level. Nostalgic Force, all not a surprise. I go for a full score also there. Score of 6, so it's a full score of 18 points on the first part. Remember this model very well, of course, and have really warm feelings for it. Scientist score or engineering realism score. I will not give it full score. I will give it a 5. Why is that? Well, first of all, if this is going to operate in space, you need more means to maneuver in space. So the thrusters, that's good to have some thrusters, but you need thrusters in the upwards and downward direction as well. And you need a set of thruster in the front part also, so you have better control of the craft. And since you cannot always expect the center of gravity to be in the plane between these ones, so you should have a pair of thrusters in front here, and it shouldn't be the same as this. It should be also a thruster up and down. Well, again, it's a mission dependent, and so I will not elaborate more on that. The other thing is that already mentioned is that the rocket nozzle here for, I guess, for breaking down on the landing phase or taking off. This is sitting dangerously close to surface. It's actually touching the surface, so it's not dangerously close, it's already contacting it. And let's assume that you have to land in not on a pad, you would collide very easily with this rocket nozzle, and that would have serious consequences for sure. Yeah, it's a toy, and of course you cannot replicate or include everything, but the landing legs should be retracted, especially if you're flying at great speed in atmosphere. This would be subjected to some significant heating. The same with this part of the structure. It would stagnate the airflow and heat up a lot here, so you need smoother surface there. Other than that, yeah, the T-tail section is okay, nothing wrong with that, and nothing much that disturbs the airflow here. Of course, this would have more aerodynamic smooth surfaces, but it's Lego, so we have to accept that. You have clearance on the thrusters to some part here, and yeah, volume wise, it's again, as mentioned in previous reviews, that it's too small actually. And if I compare it to the lunar lander model, it will be obvious there's something wrong. Or we could then of course imagine that this is running on some exotic type of propulsion technology, not needing that much volume. But if I think about the propellants that are available today, this wouldn't have any chance to fly much of a distance. So it's simply too small for too small of a size, too little volume. So if this was a model to be built, it would have needed to be much larger, even though it would just support one guy. That's for sure. But again, it depends on the mission requirements. So, okay, we are on 23 on total score, which is first place together with the mobile tracking station set. So there we have it, another review done. If you come this far, thank you for watching, and if you have any comments, feel free to share them with me. I will be very happy to see them. Just remember, it's just for the fun of it, nothing serious here. And if you like my channel, please consider subscribing also. Bye for now.